What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the LA Soccer Hub Show. My name is Gio Garcia, and today we got a special episode. We got a special guest. We got a lot going on. His name is Herculez Gomez. He's from Football Americas on ESPN. He also has his podcast show on the Men in Blazers Network. Herc, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my man. How you doing?
Good, man. Big week. Lots going on. U.S. versus Mexico. I had to get you on. Obviously, lots of stuff with the MLS. It's a big summer, Herc. We got Leagues Cup. We also got Barcelona coming down. We got the European teams coming down. So much to get into. But yeah, let's talk about it all. But first, I saw you at the Leon versus LAFC match. Give me a quick thoughts about that, because I think we were all surprised on how poorly LAFC played. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, they played poor. I mean, there's no two ways of going about it. If you're an LAFC fan, you should be bummed at the way your team played. It's a fracaso. And for those of you who don't know what that word means, that's an utter failure. That's what this is. Leon's not one of the top teams in Liga MX. I mean, if you asked anybody who follows Liga MX, hey, who's the best representation of Mexican football, send them to this game, nobody's going to say Leon. All right, the best can't make it. Who's the second best? Nobody's going to say Leon. All right, the third best can't make it. Who's next? Nobody's going to say Leon, and so forth and so forth. They're probably sixth in line. You ask the majority of Major League Soccer pundits, like, hey, who's the best representation right now of LAFC heading into this final, best representation of Major League Soccer heading into this final? Most would have said LAFC. I guarantee you 99% of the people out there would have said LAFC. So for them to choke this away the way they did with the Leon team, who was, people don't realize this, but Leon played repechaje, which is a wild card game, a playing game in the Mexican clausura, and they were bounced by San Luis at home. It's a one-off game, and at home in a must-win game, they laid the egg. It was 3-1 San Luis. They're out, and Leon's got to watch for 24 days as LAFC has time, and at Major League Soccer opens up the avenue, opens up the street for them, reschedules games to make it easier for them in their road to the final. They throw away the Open Cup game versus the Galaxy because they were concentrating on this final. They lose that one as well. So it was all hinging on this final. It was all hinging on these two legs. And you go into Guanajuato and Leon, and you play one of the worst games you've played under Steve Cherundolo, and you get away with it because Denny Boanga ends up scoring that late equalizer in a game you could have easily lost 4-5-1. That's a reality. Sure, you blundered away some chances blundered away some chances as well, but clear-cut opportunities, those are for Leon. I mean, John McCarthy was the best player for LAFC that day. Mm-hmm. So, you get away with it that way, head into the second leg at home in front of an amazing crowd. I mean, I can't speak well enough of the LAFC fans and what the culture, the game day environment they've created there. It's one of the best in Major League Soccer, so you would expect a good showing. And it's not. It was just a worst possible moment for LAFC and Major League Soccer, because we always say, like, hey, you see the CONCACAF Champions League, and historically, the best teams don't really get to the final when it comes to Major League Soccer. Sometimes, yeah, but they weren't in their best moment. This was one of the cases where they did. So you had a golden opportunity, and they let it slip away. So it's a massive failure on their part.
Yeah, you also had the opportunity to go back for the MLS to win, their CONCACAF Champions League. But look, yeah, it's unfortunate what happened with LAFC. And I think, to me, like, also, because I look just like you, Herc, I got a bunch of Liga MX friends, and they're like, see, this is why Liga MX is better. I just felt like with the two leagues and everything, and right, obviously Leagues Cup coming up, and we'll talk about that later, but I feel like it just shows me more and more that these leagues need each other more. And that game, I was just so surprised because like watching MLS and watching LAFC, what they've done the last couple of years, they didn't do a good enough job of showing who they are and who they were and what they've done this whole season, going up to, you said, mid-team table. Not Liga MX is not best team. But just so much going into that. But look, let's turn to the table. Let's talk about obviously the biggest news that happened last week Messi is coming to the MLS. Obviously, he's going to Inter Miami. You know, that's been rumored for like a year, a couple years ago. Like since David Beckham got the team, right? Everybody expected him to get a big name player. It finally happened. What's your overall thoughts on Messi coming here, and what does this mean to the league?
Before I go there, really quickly, Leon deserved winners. Nobody's taken that away from them. Nicolas Larcamón is one of the better tacticians in North America, and I think he proved that versus LAFC. Like, it doesn't surprise me one bit that Leon won. That's not the surprising part. The surprising part is the lack of fight that you saw at LAFC, the lack of, like,
Completely agree.
Yeah, anywhere near them being the team that we've seen them be. But neither here nor there. Leon deserved champions, and best of luck to them. Lots of friends there. So happy for some of those guys. Messi to Inter Miami is a game changer for Major League Soccer. In the vein that David Beckham to the LA Galaxy was a game changer for Major League Soccer, David Beckham started everything. David Beckham is the reason you have players in this league today that are designated players. I mean, I'm not even talking about Messi. Messi's in a league of his own. But if you're talking about the Joseph Martinez, the Carlos Vela, the Chicharito Hernandez, the Zlatans who've come here, the Steven Gerrards, Andrea Pirlos, Frank Lampards, et cetera, Thierry Henry, that's because of David Beckham. So for David Beckham to be at the forefront again of this change in Major League Soccer just cements his legacy off the field in Major League Soccer. I say off the field, right? Because on the field, he did very well. 2 championships with the LA Galaxy, changed what is Major League Soccer forever. But if you think about it, he's already in the U.S. Soccer Hall of Fame as a builder. Well, like what he helped build here in Major League Soccer, and now he's increasing that legacy of taking it even further and beyond. Messi has a potential to be one of the biggest moments in American sport, not just soccer, American sport. Like if there is anywhere out there like a map of sports and the way they go down in the United States, like somewhere along the lines, there'll be that little blip of Pelé came to the Cosmos, and what happened there. Messi has the opportunity to be that, if not bigger, because of these phones, because of these tablets, because of social media, because of the attention, because of YouTube, because of the video games, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it gets magnified, it gets amplified. You've never had a player of that caliber with that attention, with that light on him. Pelé did some amazing things, but you didn't have that attention. You couldn't magnify it the way you can today, and now you can. You saw, or I'm sure you've seen, the social media handles and the attention that Inter Miami is getting, and they've not even announced them. An increase in followers on Instagram and engagements and jersey sells, and I'm pretty sure half of the people that went to New England to see Inter Miami lose to New England thought he had no idea and probably bought a ticket thinking he'd be there. It's an increase in ticket sales, merchandising. He's going to take this to the next level. But much like the LA Galaxy and David Beckham, the only way for it to work is for him to be successful.
Yeah. No, you bring up a great point, because I had a bunch of friends reach out to me, and I had conversations. They're like, they look, to me, obviously this is clear. He's the greatest player to ever touch a soccer ball, football, whatever you want to call it. But the question that was thrown at me, and I kind of want to throw it to you, is like what you just said, right? He has to win championships to take it to the next level. Like, look, he's already won everything in his career, football wise, World Cup wise, and everything. But like talking about like America specifically, I guess I tend to think he is still motivated to want to win. Obviously, I don't know him. Obviously, we see how it's gone with PSG, but he didn't get the love in PSG. Maybe that was a factor, or there's just so many different things. But he's coming to Inter Miami, who are at the bottom of the table. It's very easy in MLS to make it to the playoffs, right? Especially with everything that they did this year. How motivated, I guess, you think he will be, and how? Because they have to do a lot. Because the greatest player coming could could change a lot. But do you see them having a sort of a championship run? If that's a question.
It's Major League Soccer. I've been part of teams that, dead to rights, and you make it to playoffs, and you know you win a championship. I was part of the Seattle Sounders team that didn't shoot on goal, and we won a championship. You know what I mean?
Mm,
In the final against Toronto. So anything can happen in Major League Soccer. What I will say is, let's not mistake things. Right? He's not coming to Major League Soccer because he still has the appetite of winning. That's not what's going on here. He's prioritizing certain things in his life towards the end of his career, which he is so entitled to. If anybody can do that, it's Messi. And what he's done, he has nothing else to prove. He's won everything there is to win. So he's not coming here because he wants to continue winning. Let's keep that straight. If that was the case, he'd still be in Europe and he'd still be doing things. With that said, once he's here and he's prioritizing certain comforts and liberties and luxuries for his family, the competitor in him takes over. Hey, I'm already here. Now I want to win. I don't want to lose. I'm not used to losing. I don't want to look bad, play bad. I don't want to be around players who aren't at my level, regardless of what his level is and how attainable for some players that could be. But you want to win. So that gene takes over. And that's where I think he still has it. That's where I think he's still there and he will do good things. But let's not fool ourselves, kid ourselves, saying like, oh, he's got so much he wants to prove, and that's why he's here. That's not why he's here. But while he's here, he's professional enough to want to prove everything he can do. That's a different story.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: can one player completely change a team? This is, but can one player like Messi, say they don't get any other player? You think with the current Inter Miami team that they have, you think he could really change that team?
What are they like? Before the New England game, they were 7 points out of playoffs. I mean, so I'd assume, I haven't checked the table, but they're probably like 2 to 3 games outside of playoffs. Major League Soccer, since its existence, has always been you string along 3 games and your destiny changes, right? And if you do it at the right time, heading into playoffs, you could be one of the hottest teams, most dangerous teams in playoffs. So just add a Messi, add somebody of that quality who maybe physically will take some time off during these 90 minutes. But when he has the ball at his foot, he's proven that it doesn't matter how physical the defender, it doesn't matter how capable, he can embarrass you. Mm-hmm. It's very different, a World Cup to a regular season. And what I mean by that is, in a World Cup, you can just say, hey, we just literally need to win. There's 7 games. We need to not lose more than 1, if you think about it, right? Mm-hmm. You need to string along some good results, make it difficult. And there are certain players of brilliance that can be the defining factor. He could be that deciding factor in a playoff run, absolutely. But over the course of a regular season, to ask him to be the Messi that we've seen, with all the travel, the conditions like turf, the humidity, heat, whatever the case may be, different factors, that'll be difficult. But it's Messi. If he gets anywhere near the level we saw from him 6 months ago, not 3 years ago, 6 months ago, I don't think it matters what type of team Inter has around them. Belief is a strong thing, and they could make a run. That's Major League Soccer, I repeat. But I don't think it'll be like that. I think they'll make moves. I think the same way David Beckham came in, and it was about 1.5 years where it was transition, where the team was not great. Frank Yallop and Alexi Lawless in those years, what they built there, or tried to build there, wasn't great, and it changed with Bruce coming in. I think something similar can happen. Messi comes in. I'm sure there's going to be a coach who comes in with him. I'm sure he'll have the seal of approval. Chris Henderson is a very capable sporting director. You know, he helped build the Seattle Sounders we see today. They obviously will be heavily backed. They have an ambitious owner. They were already caught cheating, so you know how ambitious their owner is. They want to win. I think somewhere along the lines, Major League Soccer, sooner rather than later, will change things, bend the rules, look the other way to kind of make things happen. That's the history of Major League Soccer, whether you like it or not. That's what it's been. And I think Miami will be a successful team in the near to mid future. I really do.
Yeah, no, look, I'm with you, I want them to change the rules and bend the rules, or whatever. I mean, Tam, Gam, all these AP things, the limitation. Look, it's mind boggling at this point, but hopefully, a player like Messi is able to speed that process through. Herc, let's talk about Chicharito. He tore his ACL, I believe, in his right knee. He's done for the season. It looks like his career. He probably played his last game with the Galaxy in a U.S. Open game. Look, I believe he's 36. What are your thoughts? Because a player like that doesn't, gonna go through this injury. I've torn my ACL. I'm familiar with the process. It's gonna take him about 6 to 9 months, and the future is unknown. But give me overall thoughts on a player dealing with an injury like that.
I don't know what your situation was or how long ago it was. What I can tell you is I've been through that process. I was 25 years old, not 35. This was 2007, not 2023. And I came back in 5 months. I also had the luxury of being a professional athlete, and I had round the clock therapy, right? I had all the machines you could think of. I was in therapy twice, if not 3 times a day, all these different things to try to get me ready. I came back in 5 months, 25 years old, not 35, not mid 30s, mid 20s. And physically, I was fine. Mentally, that's where it cost me. Mentally, that's where I had my doubts.
Mm-hmm.
I've had knee injuries at 30 plus years of age. My last one around 33, I believe. And your body's different at that age. Your body takes longer. Your body sends you different signals that this isn't okay. You're not ready. So there are different factors. What I do know about Javier Hernandez is how mentally tough he is, how strong he is. And I don't think this is the end for him. He's had a legendary career. I know there will be memes. I know there'll be jokes. I know there's all these different viewpoints of Javier Hernandez because of the type of person he's become off the field these days. But he's had a legendary career for a Mexican player, for anybody in CONCACAF, like literally legendary. Goal scoring title in Mexico. Actually, it's this one right here that we tied together. Right, goal scoring title in Mexico. Gets sold to Manchester United. Ridiculous amount of goals at Manchester United with the likes of Wayne Rooney, Van Persie, Berbatov. Under that, Sir Alex Ferguson, like the last United, like just real team. Goes to Real Madrid, Leverkusen. I mean, Sevilla, just ridiculous career that most players around this region won't have. The all-time leading goal scorer for the Mexican national team, has scored in 3 different World Cups. Like, he is that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he ends it this way. I really don't. And what's sad is there's a lot of things that are sad with the Galaxy, and I'm sure you'll ask me about it. But what's sad is every year since he's gotten here has been better for him in goal scoring. Mm-hmm. Regardless of what happens during the season, he's been a better goal scorer for it. And he was looking fit. He was looking strong. Sure, the Galaxy were struggling, but you cover the Galaxy, and I'm sure you'd say like the Galaxy weren't as bad as their record. Mm-hmm. They had there's a lot of games where things didn't go their way, either because of a call, and that's not an excuse, or because they just couldn't finish, or because they just couldn't put the ball in the back of the net or generate an opportunity, not because they were a bad team. So all these things lead me to believe that he'll be back. In what capacity and for what team, that remains to be the biggest question.
Yeah, look, you made a lot of good points. Obviously, just watching his career and just obviously being up close and seeing him and talking to him, I really obviously feel for him, because you could tell he wanted to get back, and he had a couple of injuries in the beginning of the season, comes back, and then obviously he tears his ACL. And I think look, a player like him, it has to be frustrating. And I think he was also looking, I think, for the summer to get called up with the national team. Obviously, that's going to be put on hold. But wherever he ends up, you said he's a legend in this game. He's Mexico's all-time leading goal scorer. I said this before. I think he deserves a proper farewell from the Mexican national team whenever that time comes. I know there was a lot going on. He wasn't on the World Cup, but yeah, he definitely deserves that. Obviously, talking about Mexican players, Herc, this is a big week. You got U.S. versus Mexico down in Las Vegas, Nations League, a semifinal going on this Thursday. Give me your thoughts on this game.
Complicated game for both. It really is. In my eyes, it's a pick 'em, and I think the separating factor here is the coach. Um, Mexico has a coach, regardless of what you think of him. They have a coach who's been there, who's done that, who knows what it's like to run a first team, who knows the pressures. Uh, BJ Callahan, he's the assistant to the assistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's never had a coaching career to speak of, and here he is leading the full team, the U.S. men's national team, against the biggest rival that they have. It's a complicated situation. A lot of American players aren't coming off great seasons. Not to say that there are many Mexican players coming off great seasons, because this gets lost a lot in the Mexican media. They're like, well, the American players aren't coming off great seasons. It's the same thing. I think the only thing that really separates these two is probably Chucky Lozano's Napoli, the Serie A title. If you think about it, but he was even, half the time he started, half the time he didn't. There were probably 5 or 6 more important players on that team than him, but it really is a pick 'em. The deciding factor, the coach here. And the parallels between the two are kind of funny. They're crazy if you think about them. I mean, programs are kind of struggling, a lot of doubts, the process being backwards. And what I mean by that is, like, in one sense, the U.S. men's national team and the U.S. Soccer Federation were eliminating positions because they left on their own. And in the Mexican Federation, like, the coach is still around, or I'm sorry, the president was still around, but they hire a sporting director, and then they hire a director of national teams, and then they go, and there's a coach hired, but they didn't hire him. It's like all this crazy different process going around with the Mexican Federation, and you think there's going to be still more change because now you have a new president, and not everybody's convinced with the coach and the hiring process of the coach. And we've been through this road here at U.S. Soccer before. So there's a lot of different factors that are very similar to each other. But the most glaring is, I don't think either program is at its finest point right now. And it really is a picking game. In Las Vegas, you're probably going to see I think when it was U.S. Mexico and Gold Cup, there was this was Gold Cup, a 60-40 crowd. I think you'll see something similar. But I really do think it's a pick'em game. I really do think, and by the way, either team making out of that is still not my favorite in the final.
You got Canada or Panama?
Yeah, I got Canada. I think Canada is the best team right now. They're the most solid team. Their players are in form. I mean, Kyle Aaron got relegated, but he was ridiculous signing for Valladolid. Jonathan David continues to be one of the premier players in this continent, the best 9 in North America. Alphonso Davies is getting back to health, and he's Alphonso Davies. Estacio won, a title with Porto, and he's a very good player. Jonathan Osorio is a very good player. Kamal Miller, they got some very good players in the defensive line. Richie Larrea. I think they're a dangerous team, man. I really do. And I think they're the best coach team at the moment. This is the one coach I do trust. Now, you could say what you want about the World Cup. The reality is that World Cup group for them had 2 semifinalists.
Toughest group.
And the number 2 ranked team in the world in Belgium, the Golden Generation. So people can say what they want, but they don't really know what they're talking about when they talk about that. But yeah,
that's what surprises me about Canada.
It's a pick 'em, man.
Yeah. No, just to go. That's so funny that you say that, because people want to put down Canada. I'm with you. I think Canada is the strongest team, but they played a good World Cup. They just had better countries that they're facing.
They had a good game against Belgium. They shot themselves versus John Herdman shouldn't have said what he said versus Croatia, and then Morocco. Morocco.
Bullets and board
but it's by far the hardest group. And not only in that World Cup just in recent memory that I've seen.
Yeah, just to go back on US, you're talking about the third assistant. Obviously you played for the US national team. Look, there's talk about Jesse Marsh now that things came out about Steve Cherundolo, who coaches at LAFC. What are your thoughts? Obviously, Greg Berhalter. We heard some of the US men's national team players talk about Greg Berhalter. What are your thoughts about the head coaching position for U.S. national team? Would Would you like a
I'll
U.S.
start.
based American or somewhere else?
I'll start with the players talking about Greg Berhalter. Like, no player is going to shoot himself in the foot if and say like, no, he wasn't a good coach, or no, they're not going to air the dirty laundry if there's a possibility of a coach coming back. That's just not a smart thing to do. And some of those players are indebted to Greg Berhalter. Some of those players do feel an affinity for Greg Berhalter. It makes sense that they would say that. Does it make Greg Berhalter the man for the job? No, those are two very different things. And you're asking players. You're asking players that had a good relationship with Greg. You're not asking players that didn't have a good relationship with Greg, right? Because your answer would be probably different. They probably wouldn't care as much if he was coming back. They'd probably be more open to voice their opinions, like Joe Scally did. On Football Americas, Joe Scally had an interview with Sebastian Salazar, and he pretty much said next coach should be somebody who's open to be tactically flexible. That's a direct shot at Greg Berhalter saying he wasn't tactically flexible. So there are certain players that you can ask, and just it's very obvious the situation there. Now, does it have to be American? No, absolutely not. It's got to be the best person for the job. I don't mind that they're interviewing lots of people. That should be a requisite. That's what you should do if you're the federation. They didn't do that with Greg Berhalter. That's a reality. They interviewed Greg Berhalter and Oscar Pareja. That's it. That's who they interviewed in that process with Greg Berhalter. So do your interviews, do your due diligence, as many as you can, open that net, cast it wide, but you have to end up with the right person. If after all this, if after giving BJ Callahan the keys to the summer, what you're telling us is a wash, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, because if it did, you'd hire a real coach. That's a reality, because coaches matter. Coaches really matter, man. Look at Sevilla. Sevilla had a shit season, about to get relegated. They changed coaches twice, and then a third time when they brought in Mendilibar, he takes him and they win the Europa League. Tigres, it was Diego Coca. He leaves. Chima Ruiz, they're terrible. In comes in Roberto Dante Ceboldi, rights the ship, Liga MX champions. Why? Mm-hmm. Same group, same players, different reactions, because coaches matter. So what you're saying now is these tournaments don't matter. That you could lose them and nothing will happen. No pasa nada, which is fine if you finally get to the correct coach. But if you come back down and it's Greg Berhalter, come back down as Jesse Marsh, what are you doing? Just you should already be there then. If it's Jesse Marsh, you should already be there. But if it's somebody that you had to wait on because of a club commitment or a situation, and you're like, well, we need the summer to cool off, and then we go from there, that's understandable. But that means you have to get this decision right, because these tournaments, I mean, the reality is BJ Callahan can't disappoint you. He can only surprise you. That's the reality. If you're expecting BJ Callahan to do something, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, based off what? His resume? Based off what? The pool of players that's not doing so great? So BJ Callahan can only surprise you. You shouldn't be disappointed.
Yeah. Look, and to that point, how much time, I guess, is the summer, like once the summer is over or that, when would you, I guess you would feel comfortable when they should announce a coach? Or I guess when would you say, because you make a great point, coaches do matter. And to a point, U.S. men's national team is saying like these are important because we're trying to get the best coach. But do you think by the end of the summer they should have a coach? Or name a coach?
I don't know about name a coach, but they should have their coach in line. It should be negotiated and ready to announce before the next fixture dates, right? I'm okay in sacrificing this summer if it's the right coach. Like I would be fine with that, because then you have Copa America, you have the new version of the Confederations Cup, and then you have the World Cup, right? You're going to have very busy summers. You'll have somewhat time. You don't have qualifiers, but I'm okay with that. But you need to get it right. So you can't just lose all this time. And this is what I think hurt the U.S. men's national team the first time around, is you lose 13 months where Dave Sarakin's the caretaker and Greg Berhalter's with the Columbus Crew, because he wants to finish out the season with the Columbus Crew. And then he does that, and then you come in. And then they have a bad Gold Cup showing, and then the team has taken longer to gel, to find his 11, to sort out a roster. There are so many questions. You could have used those 13 months in better fashion. It's the same thing right now. You could use this time in better fashion, if it is going to be the right coach, or wouldn't be the right coach, I should say. So it's one of those things where I think U.S. soccer needs to be very diligent in how they go forward. They're going to be criticized no matter what. Fans won't understand or like the process, but it really is imperative that you get the decision right.
Fair enough. Herc, let's finish off with this. Obviously, outside of the U.S. versus Mexico, we're gonna have both leagues, Liga MX versus MLS. First integration is gonna be this summer. I believe it starts around July 21st and through mid-August. Let's talk about Leagues Cup, and because I really feel like these two leagues, in a way, kind of need each other, and it just builds it up so nice. Right, we've seen how the business side of how MLS is able to bring teams in, and they're charging $500 million to integrate a team down in San Diego. And obviously, you got Liga MX, who to me has the culture and the decades and everything that we've seen. And there's a big Hispanic population that listens and watch games. And I think you tweeted something about the final numbers and all that. Talk to me about Leagues Cup and your thoughts and what it means.
Yeah, I was wrong about that tweet. It was like 60 million in the playoffs. But yes, Leagues Cup, man, I'll go back to Messi. Like, Messi makes CONCACAF bigger. Messi makes Liga MX bigger. Like, everybody wins. And the reason I say that is because look at the relationship between MLS and Liga MX. Every day it's gotten closer. We can go back a few years ago where it was Campeones Cup. We can go back to the Leagues Cup that was a few years ago. Now this Leagues Cup, it's a little mini World Cup. It's being showcased in the United States, and Leo Messi will be part of it. It makes everything bigger. Cruz Azul is going to debut against Inter Miami. That could be Messi's first game, his debut game. And who's not going to watch that? So that means that's more money in the pockets of Major League Soccer, more money in the pockets of Liga MX, increasing the coverage for both. There's a reason that MLS wants to be involved with Liga MX. There's a reason Liga MX wants to be involved with MLS. They're willing to share that spotlight, if you will, and both kind of win in a way. But this is at least in the immediate, it's in a very attractive tournament because of Messi. Let's not try to BS people. Because of Messi, it's a very, very attractive situation. I don't know how attractive it would be without Messi. It's or at least not in the opening rounds. Maybe towards the end, you have Liga MX who won't be in season, and you have MLS who's in season taking a break, and so we don't really know what the squads are like. But I guarantee you, Messi plays, eyeballs are going to be there.
Yeah, no, and that's the biggest thing, that the draw, and then obviously the effect that Messi has done. Yeah, and then the Leagues Cup, I guess, is just like the first integration of this tournament. And obviously now that obviously going back to Messi, now that Messi's being here, there's been a speculation about Copa Libertadores, and I think Don Garber has been wanting to be part of that. How I guess with Copa America coming here, with the 2026 World Cup being here, would you like to see MLS teams partake or be part of that? Because there is going to be a big difference in talent, just let alone. But would you like to see MLS teams in Copa Libertadores?
Yeah, big difference in talent maybe once you get to the quarters and semis. I mean, Libertadores is great, but it's like saying CONCACAF Champions is great, Like the CONCACAF Champions is great when you get to the semis, finals. Everything in between, like, it gets watered down. It's the same thing in Libertadores. So it makes sense that CONMEBOL wants a piece of Messi, right? And they'll do whatever they can to open up that possibility. Mm-hmm. It includes Major League Soccer, if it includes Liga MX, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure we'll see some version like that Final Four they're going to have. I'm sure there'll be some version of that. I could see something like that. But to see MLS teams in Libertadores right now, while I would love to see it, I don't know where they would fit it in the calendar. And I don't know, because of Leagues Cup, and I don't know how they could do it, what kind of funding they would have to give these teams going into it. Because when you have a team like LAFC or like anybody else who plays, CONCACAF Champions League, like Philly, you have to give them more money to compete, right? That's not just on the field, off the field. What are these charter flights going to look like? What are these days going to look like? What are you going to do with the league games? I mean, I think LAFC has something like, 2 games a week now heading until the end of summer.
Mm.
So it's a congested schedule. These players aren't machines. There's things in the CBA on the business side for players where they got to protect themselves and they have to be. I mean, you got to open up that checkbook as well for them. You can't just say, "Hey, here you go, product, go out there."
Yeah.
They've got to be in on it as well. So there's a lot of driving factors here, but I'll go back to the one key component here: Messi. That's the reason Libertadores is even thinking about Major League Soccer.
Yeah. Well, look, Kirk, I appreciate your time, man. I appreciate everything you do for this community and everything you've done and how vocal you've been because I felt like there at least for me just watching the media game and stuff and what you and Sebas do in Football America is there needs someone to voice the opinion and be okay with taking not just voice your opinion but be okay with taking the backlash. A lot of people can't take the backlash, and I've been following you for a while, and I really appreciate and love what you're doing for the community and keep doing it, man. Because we need someone like you, and we need people being and being vocal. And if you have to go after a person or we just need that because I just feel like MLS is a little too soft. Just with certain things, like you've been you've covered it, and I like the approach you guys are doing at ESPN and the way you guys are going about it because it's much needed in my opinion.
I appreciate that, my man. I really do. Listen, I'm sure you grew up a lot like me. We consume our game differently. We grew up watching, if you're old enough, Protagonistas or Full Picante and all that stuff. And the game around the world is consumed differently. So the game that we love shouldn't be treated differently here. And I think people are coming around to it. I mean, respectfully, right? This is still all entertainment at the end of the day, but respectfully. And I agree with you. It could be better for it. So I'm here for it, and I appreciate the love, my man. I really do.
There you go. Well, there you have ESPN's own Herculez Gomez from Football Americas and Vamos Podcast. This is Gio. We'll catch you guys next time. Bye.